Greetings, everybody. I recently was asked to describe the process that I went through when I got diagnosed and what led me to that discovery of having MPD. So here it goes. Back in 1990, I was with my first wife. We had a ceremony, but it wasn't legal, of course. And in 1990, she started noticing that whenever I would get stressed out or there was anything incredibly frightening to me, that I would seemingly become a different person. So in 1991, she had her suspicions, but she kept them to herself. And then one day, and I don't know exactly what happened. I don't remember what set it off, but I was doing the dishes in our little apartment, and she said something. I really can't remember what it was, but the next thing I remember is I was in our bedroom closet. And I was sitting there, and I didn't understand what was going on. And so when I stepped out of the closet, she was sitting on the bed, and she looked very worried. She told me that I had been in there for about 2 hours, and shortly after I went into the closet, she said that she came to check on me. But when I looked up at her, my eyes were very feral, and it made her scared. So she closed the door and let me just stay in there. As we were talking, she said that she really needed me to get help because she asked if I did have blackouts, and I said yes. And she said, we need to get this figured out. We need to get this situated. I agreed to go into therapy. And there was a clinic there that did offered free treatment for people who had low income. Around that time, I couldn't hold down a job. I would go to a job, and I would stay there for about 3 days, and then the next thing I knew, 3 or 4 weeks passed, and I hadn't been at that job for 3 or 4 weeks. So in 1 year, I had about 18 jobs. I kid you not. So I went to the first therapy appointment, and the lady that I met with was Kay. And I liked her right from the start. She was just a very gentle woman. She said, okay, we're going to set up times for you to come in, and we're going to meet, and we're going to get this figured out, and everything's going to be fine. Fast forward 3 weeks from that. She asked me my most vivid memory of my mother. And this is a trigger warning. I've dealt with the memory, but it may be triggering for some people. When I was growing up, we lived in a trailer, a double wide. And the living room was here, and then there was a wall here, and then here's the dining room, and here's the kitchen. I would sit on the far wall in the living room, on the end of the couch. And from where I was sitting, I couldn't see the dining room, but I had a clear view of the kitchen. And my parents would go into the dining room with the lights off, and they would fight nightly. This was a nightly occurrence. And the fights would start between 8 and 9 p.m. Now, like I said, where I was sitting from the kitchen, from the living room, I could see the kitchen very clearly. I could see all the way into it. And where our sink was, just above it, was this wood paneling. And when my mother would open up the hutch, and she would start hurtling these glasses just repeatedly, like a machine gun fire, and they would fly across the room, and they would hit that little paneling up on top above the sink and go crashing to the ground. Now that didn't happen nightly. The breaking of the glass didn't happen nightly. That was occasionally, but the fights happened nightly. And I remember as I was telling Kay this, my vision became blurred around the edges. And it felt like somebody had reached through my back and grabbed my belly button and was trying to pull me backwards. But I didn't go all the way. I didn't go all the way out. But I remember that I could see the person, whoever was out. Later on, I discovered that her name was Tina. And she was telling this story, and she was moving her hands to describe what was going on. And I could hear her voice, and I could see her hands, but I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't control the situation. And when it was over, and I was kind of pushed back out, Kay and my first wife were sitting there, just staring at me. And Kay reached over and touched my knee, and I remember that I jerked back, and she raised her hand, and she said, "I just wanted to know if you wanted to go get a drink of water." I said yes, and I left the room. Across from the drinking fountain was the bathroom, and I went into the bathroom instead. And I went to the mirror, and I just looked at myself to try to calm myself down. And I remember that my eyes were in more of an almond shape. And as I was watching, they went from an almond shape to a round shape, like my eyes are. And they went from blue to green. And that disturbed me. I didn't understand what was happening, and I didn't like it. I splashed water on my face, and I went back into the room, and that's when Kay said that she was not able to treat me because of what she thought that I had, and she referred me to Roseanne. And Roseanne is a whole other video, because there were a lot of boundaries crossed on Roseanne's part. But I saw Roseanne, who told me that I needed to apply for disability, and she referred me to a psychologist, who then helped back up my claim, sent me to Social Security, sent me to the state psychologist, who then, I don't remember that meeting at all, because it was little Nikki who went, and within just probably a month, 2 or 3 months, I was approved for disability, and I was on it until from 1991 to 2005. I don't regret being on disability, not one single bit. I needed it. During that time, you know, I wasn't even functional. A lot of that time, I wasn't even sitting still. In 1995, I left Illinois, went to Arlington, Texas, then to El Paso, Texas, back to Illinois, then to California, then back to Illinois, then to Pooler, Georgia. Was on my way back to Illinois when I met Melissa, and then moved to Rock Hill, South Carolina, then to West Memphis, and then to Memphis. So a lot of that time, I had such a hard time just being still and being aware of myself. So I don't ever regret being on disability. I am not on disability now. But there are times when I think that I should be. Everything in life is such perspective. It's how you take it. It's how you live it. And it's how you work within it. One of the points that I try to live by is this quote that I heard from The Haunting, Lily Taylor, an amazing actress. One of the lines in the haunting was, "You can be a victim, or you can be a volunteer." And I think I'll be a volunteer. And basically, what that means is you can either be the victim in your life and just be downtrodden and just not live your life, or you can volunteer to be a participant in your life instead of an observer. And that's what I've chosen to do, is to be a volunteer, is to work within all of the confines of my mental illness and push my boundaries, just to see how far I can go and to see what I can do. I recently did some research on breakdowns and whatnot, and that's another video in itself, some of the things that I discovered. But I will do that soon, because I have been contacted by several people who are going through, or who recently have gone through a breakdown. But that's my story, and that is where I will leave that for now. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to contact me, as always. And I hope that everybody's doing well on this Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning. And I hope you guys are well.